Welcome to the Ohio State Legal Services Association's Family Law Video Project. This video was made possible through the generous support of the Ohio Legal Assistance Foundation, and the content was created by Southeastern Ohio Legal Services and the Legal Aid Society of Columbus. The video you are about to watch will guide you through some of the forms that you will need to file in Ohio courts when you want a divorce or you need to respond to a divorce your husband or wife filed. The information we provide is not legal advice and does not create a lawyer-client relationship with you. We cannot guarantee any specific outcome in your case, and we are not responsible for any errors on your form. You should hire a lawyer if you can afford one, especially if your divorce case is complicated. This may mean that you and your spouse do not agree on custody of your children, you own real estate, you have a lot of property to divide, you or your spouse have retirement accounts, your spouse hired a lawyer, or if one spouse has a much higher income than the other spouse. If you need a lawyer or specific advice about your case, you have several options. If you are low income, you can contact your local legal aid program. If you need information about which legal aid covers your community, call the following number. Many communities also have pro bono clinics where low-income people can talk to a volunteer lawyer. Your local legal aid program will have a list of clinics near you. Finally, if you can afford a lawyer, you should reach out to your local bar association for a lawyer referral. The forms you will be completing can all be found online on the Ohio Supreme Court website here. The forms available online may be completed in Microsoft Word or PDF form on a computer. If you are not able to complete them on a computer, you can handwrite the forms. Be sure to print as clearly as possible and always use a pen. Some courts require you to use a pen with blue ink or black ink, so you may want to check with your local clerk of courts on ink requirements before you fill out the forms. Note that just because the Supreme Court is providing these forms, you will be filing them in your local courts, not the Supreme Court. This is not the only form you will need to complete. At the end of this video, you will see a list of forms that you will need to fill out if you are filing a divorce or if you are responding to a divorce complaint. If you complete and file the Supreme Court forms listed, that should be enough to get your divorce case started or respond to a divorce complaint. However, your local court may require you to also complete additional forms. Keep in mind that you might be watching each video more than once, as sometimes you will need to gather additional information that you don't have on hand during the first attempt. This video will cover how to complete a parenting proceeding affidavit as part of your divorce case. You will need to fill out this form if you have children with your spouse. At the top of the first page, you should see the phrase, "In the Court of Common Pleas." On the next line, write in the name of the county where your case has been filed or will be filed. Next, you should fill in the names of the plaintiff and the defendant. This section is directly below the court name and to the left. The person filing for divorce is the plaintiff, and the other spouse is the defendant. After the case is filed, the plaintiff and defendant should be the same on all forms filed in the case. Next, directly below the court name and county, and to the right, write the case number on the line that starts case number. Use the case number on the complaint. If you are filing this form with a complaint, you will not have a case number, but the court will assign one and write it on this line for you. If there's a judge's name or a magistrate's name listed on the complaint, write those names in on the lines under the case number. If the judge and magistrate's names are not listed on the complaint, or if you are filing this form with the complaint, it is okay to leave these lines blank. In the middle of the first page, print your name under the heading Parenting Proceeding Affidavit and next to Affidavit of. For question 1, check the box if you do not want the court to tell your spouse or anyone else your current address because you have safety concerns. If you don't want your spouse to know your address, it is a good idea to talk to an attorney before you file your forms. Review the information at the beginning of this video on how to find a lawyer or legal clinic. For question 2, check this box if you and your spouse have children together. At the bottom of the first page, write the first, middle, and last name of one of the children you and your spouse have together. Next to the child's name, write the city and state where the child was born. Below the child's name, write the date of birth for that child. Next to the date of birth, check if the child is male or female. On the line below the child's date of birth, you will need to fill in the information about where that child has lived for the last 5 years. Below the title, period of residence, write the date, month and year is fine, that the child started living at his or her current address. Check the box below, check if confidential, if you want the address where the child is currently living to be confidential, or you do not want your spouse or anyone else to know the child's address because of safety concerns. Next, on the top line under the section with the title, Persons with Whom Child Lived, write the names of the adults the child is currently living with. On the line below the adults' names, write the address where the child is living. You will need to write small. Next, on the line below the title, Relationship, write the relationship the adult person listed is to the child. For example, you can write mom, grandparents, or dad and girlfriend. Repeat these steps to complete this section. On the second page, complete sections B and C the same way that you completed section A on the first page if you have a second and third child with your spouse. If all of the information is the same for each child, check the box in section B below date of birth. If you have more than 3 children with your spouse, check the box towards the bottom of the second page that says, if more space is needed for additional children, attach a separate page and check this box. Use a blank piece of paper to write down the information for each additional child. Try to use the same format as that section of the form. You should attach the paper to the form when you file it. Here is some information to help you answer questions you might have about this section. If your child splits time living with parents or others, list the names and addresses for those people he or she stays with most of the time. If you don't know exact dates or addresses, do your best to estimate dates and research addresses. If your child has lived at more than 4 places in the last 5 years and you cannot fit all the information in the section on the form, you can use a blank piece of paper to write all the dates and addresses where the child has lived. Try to use the same format as that section of the form. Write on the form in the section for that child, see attached. You should attach the paper to the form when you file it. For question 3 at the bottom of the second page, check the first box if you have not been involved in a custody or visitation case for the children you have with your spouse. Check the second box if you have been involved in a custody or visitation case for the children you have with your spouse. At the top of page 3, if you have not been involved in a custody or visitation case for the children you listed above, you can leave sections A, B, C, and D blank. If you have been involved in a custody or visitation case for the children you listed above, in section A, you will need to list the names of the children involved in the other custody or visitation case. In section B, you should write what type of case it was, such as custody, visitation, or parenting time. In section C, write the name of the court and the state where the court is located. In section D, if the court in the other custody or visitation case made a final decision, you should write the date of the decision and what type of decision it is, such as an order or judgment. If you need more space to write down the related cases, check the box below question D. Write the information on a piece of blank paper and attach the paper to the form. For question 4 in the middle of page 3, check the first box if you do not know any other civil legal cases that could affect your divorce case, like cases in juvenile court involving your children or domestic violence civil protection order cases. Check the second box if you do know about other civil legal cases that could affect your divorce case. If you do know about other civil cases that could affect your divorce case, you will need to complete sections A, B, C, and D in question 4. But if the case information you would list in question 4 is the same as what you listed in question 3, you do not need to repeat the information. In section A, you will need to list the names of the children involved in the other civil cases. In section B, you should write what type of case it was, such as a juvenile dependency case, civil protection case, or adoption case. In section C, write the name of the court and the state where the court is located. In Section D, if the court in the other civil case made a final decision, you should write the date the decision was made and what type of decision it is, such as an order or judgment. If you need more space to write down the related cases, check the box below Question D. Write the information on a piece of blank paper and attach the paper to the form. For Question 5, at the bottom of the third page, you need to list all criminal convictions for you or anyone you live with that involved child abuse or neglect, domestic violence, sex crimes, or any conviction for a crime where the victim was physically harmed and a family member. You will need to list the name of the person convicted, the case number if you can find it, the name of the court, county and state, and what the person was convicted of, such as child abuse or domestic violence. If you need more space to write down the related cases, check the box at the end of Question 5. Write the information on a piece of blank paper and attach the paper to the form. You should list every criminal conviction that you think may fit what is asked for in Question 5, even if you think it could hurt your case. This is an affidavit, meaning that when you sign the form, you are swearing that the information listed is true, accurate, and complete. If you do not list criminal convictions here and the court finds out, there could be penalties for you and it could hurt your case. At the top of page 4, for Question 6, check the first box if you do not know any persons besides you and your spouse who have physical custody or visitation rights for your children. Check the second box if you do know of any people besides you and your spouse who have physical custody of or visitation rights for your children. If you do know of other people who have physical custody of your children or rights to custody or visitation, you should list those people in Sections A, B, and C. In Section A, list the person's name and address on the first line. Below the person's name and address, check the boxes that apply, such as has physical custody or claims to custody or visitation. There may be multiple boxes that apply to the person listed. Repeat the instructions for Sections A, for Section B and C if there are multiple people who might have custody or visitation rights for children involved in the case. At the bottom of the fourth page, there is a section with the title Oath. You must sign this document in front of a notary. Print your name on the first line. When a notary is watching you sign the line above your signature. The lines in this section beginning with sworn before are for the notary to complete. You can find a notary at most banks. If it is your bank, they will usually notarize documents for free. You have reached the end of this video. Remember that if you still have questions about how to fill out the forms for your specific situation, you should talk to a lawyer. If you need a lawyer or specific advice about your case, you have several options. If you are low income, you can contact your local legal aid program. If you need information about which legal aid covers your community, call the following number. Many communities also have pro bono clinics where low-income people can talk to a volunteer lawyer. Your local legal aid program will have a list of clinics near you. Finally, if you can afford a lawyer, you should reach out to your local bar association for a lawyer referral. Remember that this is not the only form you will need. Here is a list of the forms you will need if you are filing a divorce or if you are defending or responding to a divorce. If you complete your forms and wait a period of time before you file the forms, it is your responsibility to check the Supreme Court website to make sure that there were no changes to the forms since you first completed them.